This is the Besotted Pride of West London podcast, and we're coming to you the day after that we beat Southampton at St Mary's. And there's a few things. I'm actually on my way back home. I've not even got home yet. I stayed overnight in Southampton, had a few beers down there. The Brazilian bee was down there as well, and I'm in my new electric motor, as I spoke about a few weeks ago. And one thing about electric motors is, as you know, they go only a certain distance, and then you have to have a stop-off. So I decided to stop off outside Laney's house, plug my car in, and go to the boozer to get some food and drink. So there's a bit of a sort of false economy with these electric cars, because you basically save money on the fuel, but then you end up spending it in the pub anyway. But anyway, I'm Billy Grant here, and I'm in the boozer. And we're going to talk about the game on Saturday against Leicester, and also the game last night against Southampton. I'm with Laney. How you doing?
I'm good, yeah. It's very social, isn't it, having an electric car? It's like it seems like you have to do everything at a different pace. Yes. You have to add an extra hour on to plug it in and stuff, and then obviously stop off and see a mate on the way home and have some lunch and stuff, and then record a podcast. I enjoyed little lift you gave me down there yesterday, and it was obviously a really good away day, really good away day. I felt the atmosphere was great in the grounds. I thought the away support was pretty good. It was a cold, wet night. It wasn't, it was easy-ish to get down to Southampton, but getting to the ground's always a bit of a schlep, and but it was well worth the effort, because 2-0 away win was just what we hoped for after the Everton defeat.
Yeah, it was. It was a great night. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. And like I said to you, we're going to have the fans as well from the game, which is up there now on prideofwest.london. Check that out. We've got Brentford fans and Southampton fans. We don't, or in the Premier League, we don't actually often get opposition fans, because it's a bit harder there. They're a little bit kind of more stumm, I suppose the word is, than they are in the Championship, where everyone's kind of like a bit more open, a bit for having a little beer, having a little bit of chat, wants to talk football. Premier League, it's a bit like, it's a little bit different, is all I'm going to say. But we got a Southampton fan last night. He spoke very well, I thought. He told us of his woes and his thoughts about Southampton, and he even gave up with a little UBs at the end, which we were very happy with, because
you tricked him into that, let's be honest.
It wasn't a trick. It was like, I just sort of kind of it was a bit of a cul-de-sac, and he found himself down the cul-de-sac and ended up sort of tucking in.
I think he just said it just to stop your kind of you saying it. You said it enough times. It was like parrot fashion, literally, and he parroted it back. Brilliant. Good work.
As you know, one of our main objectives when we do the post-match podcast and we get away fans on the podcast is to try and get the away fans to do a UBs, and that was a winner on that one anyway. But listen, we've got plenty of things to talk about on this pod as we sit here in the pub, because the longer that we sit here, the more that we can eat and drink, and it could be all sorts of drinks. It doesn't have to be alcoholic drinks as well, as we say. And anyway, but we're going to be talking about that Southampton game that we won as well, and the impact of that game as well. And also we are going to be talking a bit about Toney, because as we stand at this very moment in time, the England squad is going to be announced very, very soon. Hasn't been announced as yet, so we're going to carry on talking, and hopefully at the end of this podcast we might have something, or may not have something to talk about. Toney / Rico Henry. And also we're going to be talking about the Leicester game on Saturday. We've got another team they're not deep in a relegation trouble, but they're in a little bit of a pickle. Leicester, they have been all season. And we've got Thorpe, from the Leicester. He does his own little podcast. He does loads of sort of media stuff with Leicester as well. James Thorpe as well, and he is going to talk to us about Leicester. But Laney, just coming back to let's just come back to yesterday. Early start, ended up in the Dancing Man Brewery. What was the first thing that came to your mind when you thought Dancing Man Brewery? It was right opposite the Isle of Wight ferry as well, which is that brings back some memories of something that we really wanted to go on to. We talk about this a lot back in the day when we wanted to go for an international.
Newport Isle of Wight.
Newport Isle of Wight. We always wanted to go there. So talking about, we're all going on to a European tour. This is not quite a European tour, but it would have been a sort of kind of, I don't know, what is it? What is it? It's kind of UK international kind of across the waters tour, But directly opposite, there was the Dancing Man Brewery. Good afternoon.
Yeah, it was good. In a coincidence, I started the day there and ended up back there after the game. I got a lift down with you and a lift back with Ristic. So so he parked right around the corner as a complete coincidence. So yeah, really good pub. Quite quiet, but the beers were excellent. A few bees came in, then we went into town. And then we got chucked out of the pub for daring to be an away fan, which was a bit odd. We don't come up against that very often. I know that there are certain places you go to, like Wolves. We've got to kind of circumnavigate that.
There are certain areas, because it seems to be a bit of a South Coast thing, wasn't it? Because it happened in Bournemouth as well, remember?
Yeah, as you said, we weren't welcome in Bournemouth, but there was actually, they came and found us and kind of removed us from the premises, which, it was a bit kind of OTT. We weren't singing, we weren't in colours.
And we were big Southampton fans as well.
Yeah. It was just like, house rules, and Dave was a bit jobs worth. But there you go, yeah. Then we went for a walk and we ended up in an empty pub, and it was decent, and then obviously straight onto the ground. So I think with these Wednesday night games, it screws up the podcast really, because it doesn't really give us an opportunity to talk about Everton, which we kind of will skip over anyway, because it was a defeat. I'm not saying we can't talk about defeats, but we just seemed to have run out of steam in that one game. There was enough chances to get a point out of it, but really, it was all about the reaction. It was about how we were going to bounce back from that. Players would have been kind of a bit, and I'm not down necessarily, but I think it would have been a bit deflating to kind of go back to a losing mindset, because it's something we haven't experienced since Aston Villa back in October, and it seems such a long time ago, and we needed to get back on the bike really quickly from that. And I just think from start to finish we looked strong. I said it on the podcast last night. I'll cut my bits out of it when we listen back. But I just thought at no stage really did we look like we had the appetite for defeat. And Southampton, they put us under a fair amount of pressure, and we gave them a lot of possession. The possession stats show that they had the ball at their feet almost the whole of the second half, but we were just really well organised, really well structured. David Raya, I thought, was excellent in the air. It's the one part of his game where we all kind of we're not sort of nervous of him, but he's not the tallest of goalkeepers. So when those lofted balls are slung in, and you've got a 6'7" striker up there trying to attack him, with his head, Raya needs to be he gets his timing spot on, and he did. His catching was excellent, and the conditions, it was wet and it was blustery, and I thought it was just an excellent performance, considering we weren't on the front foot.
We weren't on the front foot. I mean, we're just going to talk about maybe a few plus points from this game, or just points that we're going to pluck out from that game. Kevin Schade had his second, I believe it is second. Was it second or was it third start for the Bees? I mean, he was Everton. I can't remember. But anyway, Kevin Schade started again for the Bees. Okay, he started against. He came on against Fulham. And it doesn't matter. We're all going all over the place, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, Kevin Schade came on, and the first half, and he's. Every time that he comes on, he's showing what a tricky character he's going to be. He is, as they say, shit off a shovel. You know what I'm saying? He is properly fast, and he had a little run down the wing, which basically they just couldn't keep up with him, could they? I mean, he is, like I said to you, he's a bit of a trickster. He's really fast. He's quite direct, but also, like I said to you, he does get stuck in, and he was getting a bit of a pounding yesterday from Southampton. I don't know if they thought, listen, the only way that we could stop this guy is just to kind of sort of take him out. But he went down, boom, and then he got up again, down, got up again. I mean, I thought he had a good game.
He did have a really good game, and I think what Thomas Frank, I've not heard him talk about Schade's performance last night, but Schade got back and defended as well, and he's learning to play the Brentford way. He's been told to sort of keep an eye on Ivan Toney and see what he does, how he puts the shift in, and he really celebrated the goal, the first goal. He's really enjoying his time at Brentford, it seems, and to get starts now, and I think it's fully deserved. And I think it's the first time we kind of really saw him knock the ball past someone and attack space, and so much so that they ended up having to take him out, foul him, and they ended up putting 2 players on him, really, one marking him and one dropping a little bit deeper. So if he did get past him, there was someone there to kind of to block the ball. But yeah, he's going to cause a lot of trouble in the top flight, and it's going to be interesting to see him develop. I think we've signed a real star.
And some people are saying that Damsgaard had a very good game against, was it Fulham? And they sort of thought that maybe he was a little bit unlucky to have not started this game.
He didn't. I think there was talk. Damsgaard certainly deserved another chance after the Fulham game, but he really didn't do himself any favours. Goodison, although he was played out of position, which isn't his fault, but I thought he was just weak up at Everton. But then Jensen didn't have a great game. So I think we were just off it. All those things. We still created enough chances in the second half to get something out of it, but that's what we rely on. We know that during 90 minutes we will create 2 or 3 big chances, but we have to convert them, and that just didn't go in. Rico was unlucky up in Liverpool, and there was that incident with Ivan Toney. He looked like he was trying to find connection with the defender rather than find connection with the ball with his head, and the chance went. So there was, and obviously David Raya come up for that last minute header as well. So we did create, but it wasn't to the standard, and we weren't ruthless.
And this was in the Everton game as well.
This is the Everton game. But so as I just said, it was vital that with after doing so much good work and having reeled in the top 7, top 8, and reeled Fulham back in, that we didn't let it all kind of unravel and get a little bit sloppy. There seems to be so much professionalism in this team and in the coaching and in the standards that are set. And we really are looking high. We are aiming high, and I just don't see. We've got to play pretty much every single team that are above us, apart from Arsenal. Now we played them twice. Everyone else we have to play, and if we win a few of them games, it means we're going to be above a couple of them. It's really exciting, Bill.
Very, very exciting indeed. Tell you what, we're going to go back to Wednesday night. We're going to go back to the terraces, to the stands. We're going to listen to what the fans had to say, both Brentford and Southampton fans. They were going to come back and we're going to have a little bit more of a chat about the game.
We got the job done. Wasn't pretty, but hey, we come here, we got the 3 points, that's all that matters. Not that many shots on target against us. You can't complain against that. It was a bit hairy, but hey, you got to do what you got to do. You get the 3 points, you get the 3 points.
Yes! We done. It wasn't pretty, but yeah, we dug in. They huffed and puffed. We soaked it up, and we picked them off at the end. It's lovely.
We're looking at coming to these places now and getting a result and winning, but not being too cocky. We've got to remember where we come from. Another good performance and result.
Not the greatest performance, wasn't pretty, but we dug in, we defended, we kept them out. Another great win. We're living the dream.
You look at this time last season when we played them, it was horrific. They absolutely destroyed us. So this is comeback. This is amazing. Everyone's buzzing. Yeah, forget the weekend. That was just a little blip, and we're just back to how we were last Monday. Yeah, we're buzzing.
When it came to it, we defended exactly as we needed to. They couldn't get that final ball in, could they? As I said, second half, I'm not going to be nice about it. We had nothing going up forward, did we, at all? But you have to win. You have to win those games even when you're not so strong, and that's exactly what we did today.
I'll tell you what, it was a hard watch that second half. I must admit, it was. I don't think we strung 3 passes together, but we scored when we needed to score. We scored in the first half at a good time, and we definitely scored in the second half at a good time. Really, it's all about the defensive duties today, and the boys really put a shift in. I mean, it can't be no prouder than that.
Southampton looked like a team that were bottom of the league. If they had any firepower, they should have put a couple past us. Although they were playing the ball from side to side rather than attacking us. But hey, we'll take it. And Weiser's goal at the end.
Result. Oh, fantastic result. Any other result would have been a travesty really today. The better team won by some margin. Slightly different tactics today, but yeah, it should have been only one result. Bees win today all day long.
I didn't think the players were remotely nervous. I think they probably thought they were in control all game, and we sat back and let them come out and let them have the ball, and they had lots of ball and didn't do much with it. Brought a really 10 foot tall bloke on and we won a couple of headers, but I mean they're rubbish, aren't they? I mean they're going down with no disrespect to them, but they're not very good, and I thought we did exactly what was needed.
We got a 6 or 7 striker who can't jump, can't put the ball anywhere near the goal. I don't think we had a shot on target, at least in the second half. It's just when we got 2 strikers and Theo Walcott in the box, and nothing's happening for them. And Ruben Seller's done a great thing. We've only conceded 3 goals in the last 5 games, which for us is amazing. We've had 3 clean sheets in the last 5 games, and before that we've had 1 all season. So Ruben Sellers is doing a fantastic job in that sense, but we still can't put the ball in the back of the net. It'd be such a Saints thing to do. We'll lose to Brentford, and then we'll go and beat Spurs at home on the weekend.
It's job done, isn't it? 41 points now. Job done. And plenty of games to go. Yeah. It was, first half I thought we were really good actually. Really good. Thought we kind of controlled it. Second half, I don't know if we just decided to go into a deep block, and it seemed a bit of an odd way to approach the second half. Tactically, he obviously was worried because we changed it, didn't we? So he went to 3 at the back. Yeah. So I don't think he was comfortable with what we were doing. I don't think he was comfortable thinking we've got this, because he switched it up, and he switched it up a couple of times with substitutions, and he switched it up big style. With about 15 minutes to go, he went 3 at the back. He brought Pontus on, and it was kind of an obvious way to go, and it saw the game out. But even with that, we still had to. I mean, look, Pontus goes down, I don't know, and all the old tricks come out, don't they? And if we are honest, right? If you were watching us as the opposition fans tonight, you'd be really upset. But maybe that's what we've had missing for so many years, and we just saw the game out, and I guess you have to do that sometimes.
There you go. Fans. Bees fans, Saints fans, Bees fans happy, Saints fan not particularly happy, but then that's to be expected. It's sort of kind of, I don't know, just in effect probably sort of thinking relegation is not a certainty, but they thought that, like this game, the Bees game, if they had won that one, that might be the one that turned it for them, but it didn't do, and they think they've got quite a few tough games to go. So let's just see how it goes. I mean, I was just at Laney, I was just saying to him, look, Southampton is quite funny. It's not too far away. It's relatively easy to get to. I mean, it's a bit more difficult for me because I'm actually live north of London as opposed to south. If you're south, it's a really easy game to get to. But the other thing is that I came here for the Women's Euros as well, and I stayed overnight there as well, and I was surprised about how lively it is. There's like loads of really good places to go, and I've been down here quite a lot because I used to look after a set of artists from down here, and obviously Craig Davies from down here as well, so I've been down here loads. But also on a Wednesday night, I was there Wednesday night on a wet, rainy Wednesday night, and normally if you go anywhere, like no chance at all, but literally you could find places to walk into at 11, half 11, 12, half 12, 1 o'clock, where you just walked into, wasn't any problem at all. People were sitting down there having a drink. I was like, oh blimey, this is like, if you just want to come out and just have a little bit of a getaway, go with a couple of mates and just have somewhere you can go out for a bit of a late night, have a few drinks, but no pressure, Southampton is the place to go to. But coming back to the Southampton, there was we went 1-0 up at half time. 1-0 up at half time. 1-0 up at half time. Very good goal by Ivan Toney as well. Again, very good at set pieces as we are. Flick came in from Norgard, the near post, and Ivan Toney was like whang, bang, smashed it into the back of the net. 1-0 up, looking comfortable. Southampton came out the traps in the second half, and to be fair, if it wasn't for like a wicked block from Hickey early on in the second half, we could have been talking very differently in this pod, couldn't we?
Yeah. It was a critical interception. David Raya did, I think he parried it, and then it went through his legs. It's hard to see a lot. We were right at the back of the stand as well. So it was hard to see at times. But yeah, I think if it goes 1-1 and they get their tails up a bit, it could have been a bit of a different outcome. So in that respect, that was kind of pivotal in the way the game panned out. But before that, Brian and Bumo had a shot blocked by the goalkeeper's legs. Great flick on by Toney, and he kind of came in at the back post and volleyed it. It was a really, really good save. So we could have been 2 up. And I think 2 up at half time, and then I think they would have been fearing the worst. But I thought Southampton were okay. It was just they just had no end product. They look like they've got something about them. They could have enough about them to escape. I hope they do. As you said, you want your more local, easier trips for next season if we can. I wish them well. To be honest, I've got nothing against them. It's just that last night they just seemed toothless, and we were just clinical when the chances came.
And again, my man Wisa pops up. Okay, you can call him Wisa the super sub, who we bring on. And again, we discussed this in the boozer, where, like he said to him, he seems to have more of effect when he comes on as a super sub for a set amount of minutes with his absolute speed and energy. And in the 90th plus, probably 7th minute yet again, and this is not the first time that he scored in the 90th plus 7th minute. He pops up and bang, he puts the ball in the back of the net. And again, it was one of those ones where, because the second half, and you heard all the fans talking about it, the second half was pretty dire, to be honest with you. Brentford, they weren't really, we were just, it wasn't great in the second half. So to have a half like that in the second half, where we weren't great, but we were doing enough of a job, then bang, we still pop up to score the last goal. That's got to be great for us and a gutter for them.
Yeah, they were quite moody, weren't they, in that corner to the left of the Brentford lot. There was fights kicking off. One of them was quite a lively toe-to-toer, which was quite entertaining, actually. Can't condone that kind of behaviour in a football ground, Bill, but it was quite funny to watch. And yeah, you're right about Wisa. Unfortunately for him, when he has started, he doesn't sort of have the same impact, and maybe it's against tired defences late on in the game is the right time to use him. And if we have a player that comes on with 10 minutes to go and scores 15-20 goals in a season, we'll have to have him kind of typecast as that's his role, because you don't want to change that. People can get wise to that, but you can't get your energy levels back in the 80th minute. He's quick, he's lively, and that finish, Ivan Toney's flicked on header, he won the header on the halfway line, and that released Wisa through on goal, and it kind of got stuck a little bit behind him just as he was going to shoot, but he did brilliantly to lift it over the goalkeeper's legs and find the net. And there was Limbsville, there was a lot of collapsing Brentford fans, because people were kind of, there wasn't a fire drill, and it certainly wasn't a blooming no, it wasn't Fulham-esque at all. It wasn't a fire drill, and it wasn't an evacuation, but people were preparing to go, and a lot of people were standing in the aisles and on the stairs coming back down from their seats. And obviously when the goal went in, there was a little bit of tumbling going on in a good way, and it was well celebrated.
And interesting as well, and I bumped into quite late at night last night, God knows what time it was, I was making my way back to my hotel, and I bumped into Trevor as well, who like I said, she used to hang out with for years on the terraces, on the Royal Oak Terrace as well, and who's had a little chat. He actually lives up in Lancaster, been there for over 20 years now, still comes and sees bees home and away, and so he was chatting, and he said that actually, did you know, Bill, like last season, and again, we need people to throw these facts in for us. He goes, last season we had six pointers, apparently. Didn't know that. Did you know that? No. Apparently we had six pointers last season. Yeah, JB, actually. We're going to get JB on in a minute, actually, which is all good. And I don't know what he's going to come up with this week, but hopefully maybe next week he might come up with that. But six pointers apparently last season, whereas this season we've only had one 6-pointer already, which is Southampton. So we've beaten them home and away, but we've still got 4 more 6-pointers to go, and they are, and I was going to ask you who they are, but you go.
Some of them are Man City, Man United, Liverpool. It's obviously not Chelsea, unfortunately. We haven't beaten Leicester.
And Leicester.
No, we haven't done them yet. West Ham.
West Ham as well, isn't it? So yeah, so we've got 4 more, so we've got Manchester United, Man City and Liverpool, which obviously the 3 big, well not putting West Ham down.
Did I? Did pretty well, yeah.
You did really,
So
you did really well. You get an absolute, mate, Eric is coming out here now actually, he's calling it a big cake.
But I hope you've asked Thomas Frank, because he knows exactly what I need.
He knows exactly what you need indeed. So yeah, so we've got that. So we're sort of saying what a mad season it will be if you end up doing the double over Man City and Man United in one season. You know what I'm saying? And Liverpool as well, and Leicester. Yeah. Well, but anyway, so just coming back to that Southampton game, just to see if there's any final points as well. Oh yeah, Pontus Jensen just popped up at the last minute when we decided to go 3 at the back. When we decided, we're not doing very well with holding the ball here. We need to just kind of close this game out. So we went 3 at the back. Pontus turned up, which was a bit of a surprise actually.
Yeah, good to see the old boy back, and there's a few that kind of we've moved on from, and I know he's been injured, and I might sound really harsh, but we've been flourishing without him in the team in the same way we've been flourishing without Cannot in the team. And it's just, I think we might be in transition. But, he's obviously a really useful player. He's a massive part of our recent history, and we all love him. But it's I think the opportunities are going to become fewer and further in between for him. But it's great to see him back last night for sure.
Indeed. Listen, talking about, like I said to you, JB, Facts and Funk, he always gives us Facts and Funk every single show. And as we've got Leicester coming up at the weekend, JB is going to give us a few more facts and funk.
Are you ready for this? I told you it was coming. Who? JB. And he's ready to sock it to you one time. Get it.
Hello, Jonathan Birchall here again. On Wednesday, we completed the double over Southampton. We've now played them in 20 league seasons, and that's only the 3rd time we've done that. Both the others were in the 1950s. It was also only our 5th ever league win at Southampton. Back to Saturday, and our 12-game unbeaten run came to an end. A run which equalled our best in a top-tier season. Thomas Frank was quoted in a Sunday paper as saying, "But that is for the past and the history books." Quite reminiscent of 1922, when we set our club record of winning 9 consecutive games. That came to an end with a 1-1 draw with Bournemouth. Manager Harry Curtis expressed similar sentiments when he saw this as a blessing in disguise. Making and breaking of records is no good to any team. Last season, Manchester City beat us 1-0 on the 29th December 2021. And until the Everton game, we hadn't had another 1-0 league defeat. So we'd gone through the whole of 2022 without that scoreline. That's never happened before in any of the other 97 calendar years we've been playing league football. A fact more remarkable when you consider 1-0 is our most common scoreline if we lose a league game. 23% of our pointless games end in such a result. When the 4th official held up 7 minutes of added time at the end of the Southampton game, there was some disbelief. But less so when Johan Wissa took advantage of that 7th additional minute as he scored his 12th Premier League goal, half of which had been scored when he's come off the bench.
So there you go, JB with his facts and funks. And don't forget also to go and check out the Gowler. B's breakdown as well. They do every single match. They do a statistical breakdown of the game, and it's really interesting on both sides exactly what happens, sort of almost like not blow by blow, because obviously you can't do like every minute by minute, but in the key moments of the game you go and check it out, and he breaks it down statistically, tactically what they've done and what Brentford are doing, what the opposition are doing. Interestingly, we get some sort of fans who said, we shouldn't be giving the opposition our tactics, but it's kind of like, I get that, but to be fair, if the opposition ain't got their own tactician who is just breaking down our tactics, then they may as well just leave the league and just go and play non-league, you know what I'm saying? Which is all good. So yeah, I think he's done a really great job. So check it out. He's got the one from the weekend, the Everton game at the weekend, and he possibly may put up the Southampton one. Obviously, there's a game on Saturday, so it's quite a tight turnaround.
It's in the States as well, so there's a time difference. But I really, really enjoy it. I mean, I'm no tactician. I'm not a coach. I'm quite happy to put my hand up, but I'm happy to learn, and I'm happy to kind of work out where where we've changed formations mid-game, and where players, it's quite clear sometimes what they've what's transitioned from the training pitch onto the match. The Brian and Bumo corner last night that Norgard flicked on for Toney, that's straight out the training ground. And that sometimes might explain where we don't beat the first man, when we don't get that delivery from the corner perfect. It just hits the defender instead of like one of our players. But we're looking for that quite a lot. So it was perfect last night.
That's really, really good. So listen, let's move on, because on Saturday we've got a big game against Leicester.
And Leicester.
We've got Leicester coming down, play them first game of the season, in fact it was, because I remember I was in Spain. I was in Spain with the Cheshire Bees, actually watching it in a bar in Spain. And we didn't do particularly well in the first half, but we did a lot better in the second half. And in the end it was even Stevens, I think, right? There's 2-2 in the end, like I'm saying. So it's so long ago. I understand the sun was beating on my brain.
Josh De Silva last minute equaliser. We're still a few people are still buzzing from that. That was a beaut.
Yes, that's right. And again, last minute equalisers make it feel like a winner, and for the opposition makes it feel like a loss to them as well. But listen, Leicester are coming back down. Interestingly, because they hadn't had a great start to the season, but we were saying Leicester, man, they've got 2 good players. They're not going to carry on having this terrible start to the season. They'll be all right. But they've gone the whole season kind of just like not doing particularly well, not doing like really badly, but just not doing kind of particularly well, sort of like probably a position that we would have been delighted at being in last season, sort of 15th-ish or something like that, 16th-ish. But from Leicester's perspective, I know that the Leicester fans are not happy at all with what's going on down there. They think that they've lost the vibe, they want the manager out. There's lots of things. Listen, we could sit down and we could talk about Leicester as much as we want to, but we're going to go over and talk to Thorpe. Okay, because he knows everything about Leicester. Let's talk. Give us the lowdown, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk Leicester.
Hello to Billy and to everyone listening. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast once again. My name is Jamie Thorpe, a freelance broadcaster, a massive Leicester City fan and season ticket holder. Spend most of my time talking, writing, and generally being quite upset about Leicester City. So yes, obviously big game coming up for both teams in the very separate and different circumstances, but one that we're probably both looking forward to in a different kind of way. Now, so Billy's asked me the question about what are my thoughts on Leicester, and it's sort of hard to know where to start with the general shambles that has been this Leicester City season. I think to try and give yourselves and your listeners a little bit of context into why things have been quite so bad for Leicester this season, I think that would probably be best, because I think it's fair to say that things haven't gone exactly as many people would have predicted for Leicester. I myself had us finishing sort of between 10th and 12th, so a bit of a regression on previous seasons, but nothing like what has actually happened. Rodgers himself warned us in pre-season that we were in for a season of pain, and we all thought that this was a classic Rodgersism, where he sort of tends to exaggerate certain things, but sadly in this case he turned out to have been completely right. So basically Leicester City's accounts have just been released, and on the face of them they're horrendous. A £92.5 million loss for the year means it's 192 million over the last 3 years, which is quite some way above the rules of financial fair play. There is mitigating circumstances within that, in that there are COVID exceptions, and Leicester were particularly hard hit by COVID. But regardless of the way that it's fallen, we are skirting very close to the line and remain on UEFA's watch list. This has largely come as a result of Leicester's ambition, and I know that seems slightly contradictory, but let me explain. So the wage bill for Leicester is 7th highest in the league, with an average of around £87,000 a week. £87,000 a week, yeah. That is a simple result of Leicester's owners trying to break this top six model, but it's much harder to do that than you might think. Leicester's income, 215 million for the year, was the 8th highest in the league, but the big six, the traditional big six, all make over double that in the year. So you can see the disparity. Before a ball's even been kicked, you're roughly £100 million behind. Commercial revenue for us, our shirt sponsorship is worth about £15 million a year. Man United's have two worth 50 million and 45 million respectively. You know, you're playing with different beasts, and in order to try and break that, you have to spend. Leicester's model is fairly clear that they sell a big asset every year, which is something that they've done with the likes of Ben Chilwell, Riyad Mahrez, Harry Maguire, and it served them well. They've reinvested that money very wisely. They've had to pay big wages to attract the sort of players that are going to break you into that top six. Paying big money for the likes of Maddison, Yuri Tillemans. But it's not necessarily them that have caused the problem. In order to compete in Europe, as we all know, you need a big squad. You can't simply do it off the same sort of 15, 16 players like some clubs operate. You need to use your full 25-man squad. And in order to attract certain players to come, Leicester have spent over the odds. I think that's not unfair to say at all. The money thrown at the likes of Yannick Vestergaard and Ryan Bertrand last year in particular has proven to be nothing short of an unmitigated disaster. You've got players that have fallen out with the management, such as Soyuncu, who can't get anywhere near the squad, who are on reasonable money. And it's that's acted as such a drain, which meant that this season in the summer, we weren't able to spend any money. Now, in the Premier League, as we all know, apart from Brentford, who provide a really refreshing counterpoint to this with the attitude and I think the footballing philosophy that's followed by. I did a great interview with John Varney a couple of years ago. I found him absolutely a fascinating man to talk to, because the model is so almost unique, but has been so successful to see. But they break this mould, which is fantastic. But Leicester have tried to spend, and in order to do so, you have to spend consistently. So having one summer where they were hamstrung and weren't able to spend money, you just see the regression in the squad. Rodgers was crying out for new players. There were a number of players that were on his list that have gone on to do well. Brennan Johnson at Nottingham Forest being one that I think would have really benefited us. And that's got to be quite painful for him to see. So they're basically entered into a period of retrenchment where they're trying to remove players that are on high wages or coming to the end of the contract. And basically, it's a bit of a cyclical thing where Leicester have got to press a reset button. There's going to be a lot of big players leaving. I'd imagine that they're going to have to sell in order to balance the books, so to speak. The owners have written off all of the club's debt into equity, which is fantastic, and it's something that's not uncommon in the Premier League. I think of the accounts that have been released so far, there's been 11 or so released so far, and 10 clubs have made a net loss. So you do need investment from owners and ownership groups. And Leicester is certainly not alone in that, but they will lose. My unofficial prediction is that James Maddison is off to Newcastle. Yuri Tillemans will go, and it wouldn't surprise me if there were one or two more. So the only target that Leicester have to have is simply remaining in the league, which looks less and less likely. So heading into the season, obviously they lost Wesley Fofana late, which the club did not want to do under any circumstances, and had it not been for the behaviour of the player himself, which look up any time that Chelsea play Leicester and look on Twitter and you'll see the reaction from the fans tells you everything you need to know. It was full blown. Well, I'll be polite and just say he threw his toys out the pram, but I think we all know what I'm trying to say. Losing him so late, obviously they replaced him with Wout Fast, but you've lost a key player, a massive player for the club and how we were set up. Added to that, they spent the majority of pre-season building a plan around Ricardo Pereira and lost him to injury again. So it wasn't, the greatest start to the season. Head into the season, again, more injuries and losses. Kasper Schmeichel left for Nice. You had big injuries to Johnny Evans, who's been unfit most of the season. And then they've had James Justin, who sadly had only just come back himself, really, and was looking a fantastic player, out for the season. You've had Tillemans, Johnny Evans, obviously, as I mentioned, massive rock at the back. Tillemans gone, Maddison being out for big periods. So they've got a thin squad that has been rocked by injuries, and that has just resulted in the most inconsistent up and down season that we're seeing the results of now, which sort of brings us quite neatly onto the manager and my thoughts on this. I think it's fair to say that Rodgers has polarised opinion. The fan base is very much divided. I think if you look at the Chelsea game, the weekend. That was the first time there have been clear, or not quite majority, but clear groups of fans joining in with chants for Rodgers to be removed of duties at the club. So I think it's fair to say that opinion is certainly starting to sway against him. I can see why the owners have not rushed the decision, even though I think that this game will be the one. If Leicester lose again at the weekend, that will be the time. They will, before the international break, with 11 games left to go, you still give yourself enough time. So this is a big game, really. But the reason why they haven't is because Rodgers is sort of so ingrained into the culture of the club at the minute, from little big things to obviously the philosophy, the fact he's brought in his own staff. Leicester paid $8 million to bring him out from Celtic with his staff. But there's little things such as choosing square tables in the club canteen to ensure that players talk, and no mobile phones, and players have to clear their own plates and cutlery away, stuff like that. He is in the philosophy. So removing him not only removes the manager, and obviously his coaching staff, but you sort of rip up a blueprint that's been 4 years in the making. And I'd imagine that to the Leicester owners, who have quite clearly tried to build a project and have done so with Rodgers, and they've seen the success that it brings when it works, I can imagine that they are hesitant to rip that up, and to bring in someone that is untested, because in reality the managers that Leicester can aim at this time, it's not going to be the sort of list that an aspirational club such as us wants to have. I think if you go back towards the start of the season when we begun, they would have been able to look at maybe not the likes of Thomas Frank, but you'd been looking around Graham Potter, people like that. They'd have been able to at least aim that high, or at least consider themselves to be an attractive proposition. But now, where the club are and everything that's going on, I can't see that being the case. So what do they do? I think that there has also been mitigating circumstances, and I know this is something that not a lot of Leicester fans agree with. Rodgers has obviously got credit in the bank for 3 very good years, winning the FA Cup, Community Shield, very, very nearly back-to-back top 4 finishes, which I personally think he did exceedingly well to get us there. That does play in his favour. But then you look at the last few games as a subsection. So if you take the Man United, the Chelsea and the Southampton games for Leicester, 3 losses, 3 games where Leicester left scratching their heads as to how they've lost. Man United, it was a De Gea masterclass, that stopped us getting anything. Chelsea, again, big chances. And Southampton, I just don't understand that game at all. Kelechi Iheanacho, I'm certain that was his twin playing. It was something else. But they've performed well. They've made enough chances. What does persist and what does worry me greatly is the fact that we are so vulnerable at the back, and so vulnerable in terms of mentality. When things don't go our way, heads go down ever so quickly and chaos reigns. The fact that we've had to look to Napoli's Mendy to be one of our most stable and calming influences shows you sort of the way the club's at the moment. You're turning to players that a year or so ago, or even in the summer, you'd have viewed as being a fringe player at best, and he's having to be one of our main men. So it does tell you where we're at. I'm basically willing to bet that our entire Premier League survival rests on the shoulders of one James Maddison. Leicester are a very different team with him. He's an exceptional talent who frankly deserves to be playing in the Champions League, and will do so as of next year probably. The chances created, shots on target, big chances, goals, assists, the whole lot goes up with him in the team, and you can tell the team are more confident. He's a constant outball. He's an absolute menace, and the drop of the shoulder and turn that he has in his locker is getting up there with the best. So he makes a massive difference. Leicester, I think he's carrying a little bit of an injury, and Leicester are nursing him through it. So keeping him fit is going to be absolutely crucial. We've got 12 games left. 6 are against relegation rivals. It is in Leicester's hands, but only just. It's goal difference at the minute, so things could turn quite swiftly. I'm sure that you'd like me to put an official prediction out there. and I'll try and be as optimistic as I can. I think Leicester will stay up, but the fan malaise and the general attitude of the fans towards the team and the situation is, if you look at Everton last year, Everton at home were a different proposition in that the fans, regardless of how bad they were, and they were terrible for a lot of the season, the fans came together and almost just tried to single-handedly will them over the line, and they did so. Lampard came in, new manager sort of bounced, and then the fans picked up on that and they stayed up. Leicester, I'm not certain it's the same. Discontent is probably the most, at home, discontent is probably the word I'd use the most. Our away support has always been very good, and I think they will continue to do so, but having that 12th man makes all the difference. So they're going to need a couple of performances, and I think their momentum will be enough, but lose the next couple and I think they're in big trouble. But anyway, very quickly, because this is obviously a Brentford podcast, and you are certainly a club that I think most teams in the league would admire. A very likeable team, clear style, clear philosophy, and sort of reminiscent of Leicester of the last few years, in that whilst there are very good players within the club, I think that it's not disrespectful to them to say that their output is greater than the sum of their parts. I think that there is, Thomas Frank has obviously got them ticking and has found a system that works in the Premier League and is getting the most out of his players, and that's the highest compliment you can pay him. I think I'm looking forward to seeing where you end up this year. Arguably quite jealous of the team and how you're playing. I think that's clear to see from my voice at the moment. But it's a club which I've been to a few times. I've always enjoyed it. Obviously, I've met up with yourself, Billy, and had felt very welcomed in that environment. But obviously, things will be different come Saturday at 3:00. But official prediction time. I mean, this is a nonsense call. I've written it down, and I'm even looking at it, I don't believe it. But I've sort of got to want to believe that Leicester are going to win the game, despite form, players, and every other sign pointing in the other direction. I just can't see that Leicester continue to create chances in the way they did and not take them. I think that in one game we're going to click and we're going to outscore the opposition, and I'm really hoping that it's this Saturday. So I'll put my neck out on the line and say a 2-1 Leicester win. But other than that, thank you very much for having me on the podcast. As always, I wish you guys the very best of luck for the rest of the season, apart from for Saturday, obviously. And yeah, very much looking forward to seeing what the trajectory of Brentford is over the next few years. And yeah, thanks again, and hope to speak to you soon.
So there you go, Thorpe, Leicester fan, giving us the lowdown on Leicester, and just doing our little own quick analysis on Leicester as well. I mean, just looking at the strengths and weaknesses. Leicester, what they're good at is at scoring from direct free kicks. They're good at that, and also long shot opportunities. And I think we've experienced that with them before, actually, where they scored a couple of goals from us from, in fact, I think nearly all their goals, like Tielemans and them, like they all scored from like properly, like literally, like, you know, just like miles away, you know. But where their weaknesses are avoiding offside, aerial duels, defending set pieces, defending against through ball attacks, defending against skillful players, protecting the lead, stopping opponents from creating chances, and very weak against defending counter-attacks and defending long shots. They like short passes, they attempt through balls often, take long shots, attack down the left. They're non-aggressive, play the offside trap, and they play in their own half. Looking at that, you know, we could see that there's plenty of opportunities there for the mighty bees.
Yeah, 100%, Bill. It's they're one team that we've not beaten yet, and there'll be one that we certainly want to. You know, we were just saying 2 seconds ago, do you think Brentford have become a Leicester City-sized club yet? You know, we must be getting close. They seem, you know, obviously they've won the Champions League, the Championship, the Premier League, and they've had a Champions League campaign, and they've been involved in Europe. So I don't think we're quite there yet. I think if we finish in the European places and we do go on our European tour next season, I don't think we're that far behind them. I mean, you know, I'm not getting too carried away. You know, whether we will ever sing, you know, we are champions of England. I'm not quite so sure, but that was a a bit of a one-off. That was a freaky kind of season where everything went their way, and we all shared in that. That shared in their euphoria as well in some slight way. So, but I don't think the comparisons between the two of us are that different yet. Which goes, I think it just shows you how far we've come. So I think beating them on Saturday, if we can do that, and then finishing the season strongly, I think that's where we're kind of nudging towards. Is that over the top, Bill, do you think?
Not really, no. I mean, I think that, again, this is not disrespecting Leicester, because, like I said to you, I think they've done phenomenally well. They've got some really, I mean, when we played them last year, they've got some, we just thought, oh my God, that team, they've got some phenomenally great players. They've been playing great football from time. Obviously, they've had the tragedy that they've had, with the chairman who died in the helicopter. I'm saying, all things like that. The club's gone through a lot of kind of almost like, say, metamorphosis. It's, and it's still trying to stabilise itself. And we were talking about this as well. Now, we're going through a good time, and we were looking over to our left and seeing the Southampton fans punching to, 6 shades out of each other. You know what I'm saying? Because they're going through not so good a time, and we're realistic to go. This could happen to us at some stage. Not necessarily next week or next month or next year even, but at some stage, sometimes you're gonna you might have a bad run, you might come to a bad time, and you've got to kind of see how you weather it. And I think for the Leicester, it's like seeing how they weather it. Working out where the problems are. The problems with their recruitment. Was it with the hiring of the managers? Was it with their tactics? Was it with the attitude? Is it the fact that they grew so big that they ended up getting like loads of stars and loads of money, and then they didn't really care about the team as much as they did when they weren't as big? There's loads of things which we don't really know about. But we'll see. But I still think that Leicester are a good side. But if we continue what we're doing with the sort of strategies that we've got, we can sort of kind of look at them to sort of emulate the kind of stuff that they've done, and like I said to you, as you all know, I'm not overly keen on a European tour next year, but I'm keen on the European tour at some stage, and maybe like Leicester, we can actually kind of copy them on the European tour stages and down the line. But let's see, Laney, go.
No, we're just saying, but they are massively underachieving, aren't they? It must be a right struggle for their fans. It's the same with Leeds United fans, really. I mean, you look at their players on paper, both of those teams should be doing better than they are, but they're not, and that's what the managers and the head coaches will be scratching. It's like, how have we got this quality of player, and it's just not transferring into results, Bill. And it's you wouldn't want to be stuck down, as the Allard said last night, on that 27-point area. There's a lot of teams, and there's a lot of good teams that can find themselves going down this year.
And talk about that quality of play. I mean, they're going to announce the England team in a minute. You're talking about Ivan Toney, and if you want to do a pure stats thing, for the season his XG is 17.61. He's by far the highest Bees player. Okay, when it comes to sort of kind of the quality of chances that were created over the season, the highest in Leicester is Harvey Barnes, 6.59, so about 7. So you could see the gulf, the difference between the two players. And I was saying, actually, because the team's not been announced as yet, looking at Ivan Toney yesterday, he was playing and he was doing all right, but he didn't look like a player maybe had a bit of a spring in his step. And we think that maybe the players do get told beforehand whether or not the England team or not. And I don't think that he was playing like he was kind of like in the. I might be wrong, like that he's in the England team. Like, I'm saying, I've got an England team announcement, but you're going to announce the team in a minute, and I'm going to be completely and utterly wrong. Just talking about, like I said to you, kind of Leicester as well, similar to us in their possession. Average possession is about 48%. Ours is sort of similar, 48%. So it's going to be quite similar like that. Goals against, XG against, is that they let in a bit, the big chances. So they let in bigger chances created against them as well. So going into this game, in principle, you would have thought the difference between our two sides and what we're creating, what they're creating, and what they're in effect letting in. Ivan Toney is in the England side. Ivan Toney is in the England squad. So there you go. And as I was saying, I was looking at how Ivan Toney was playing yesterday, and I thought that he looked like he was actually kind of going to be in the England squad, like the way he was carrying himself. So there you go. Is there no Rico Henry though in the England squad?
I'm waiting for the list, literally.
Okay, it's a headline title.
Waiting for Gareth to text me back.
So it's a headline title. So this is really interesting because Ivan Toney is in the England squad now, but he's still got the same cloud looming over him that he did 6 months ago. So why didn't they take him to the World Cup?
A mystery. He was the perfect penalty taker. He was the perfect person to have there as the literally the perfect replacement for Harry Kane if he got injured. And I think it was a mistake. I think it was what's the right word? I think it was neglectful, to be honest with you. I think if Harry, and it looked like he was injured at one stage, if he'd gone out, then we were really scratching around there, and we had someone that was probably on better form than Harry going into the World Cup, and I think that could have been the reason we went out. It wasn't the reason we went out in the end. The French did us fair and square, but I think hopefully, I mean, you can't pick him again and not play him. You can't do it again the second time to him. If he gets on the bench and doesn't come on, if he doesn't get his cap, I think he should walk away from England.
Well, I mean, he's going to play. He's going to play because he's going to play because there's no point. There's absolutely no point. In a way, they've kind of embarrassed themselves a little bit, England, because if you're going to not pick him, and they didn't say why they didn't pick him, but there was no reason not to have picked him before. For that reason, I think they fluffed it because they went to Qatar. They took Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson, his contribution was minimal. It's kind of like, is he the kind of person that's going to change the game up? You know what I'm saying? At least with Ivan Toney, if things are not going particularly well, and with Harry Kane, you bring on Ivan and you change what you're doing. And unfortunately, they didn't have that in their fire. So, well done to Ivan Toney. I knew it all along that, I could see it on the pitch last night that he was going to be, chosen for the match on against the Ukraine at the weekend, which I have got tickets for as well. So I'm very much looking forward to going to that on a Sunday evening, actually, at Wembley, which is going to be all good. We're still trying to find out if Rico has been called up. So no, Rico Henry has not been chosen for England. But listen, his chance will come at some stage. We are sure that it will come. So watching a Brentford player in an England shirt still may be feasible, Laney.
Well, we went to Wembley, didn't we? We went to the Germany game hoping that he would come on, and he didn't. But it was good. It was in the end. We came back and we flipped the game round quite late on, was probably when he was going to come on and get his cap, but it's got to be this time.
It's got to be this time. So listen, just going back to the Leicester match, Laney, we've talked a lot about lots of things. I need to show off actually, because I need to unplug my car and get back home, and I'm feeling very green. And we've got Harry Benham out there as well, who's our Green Meister besotted crew over there in Ireland as well, who's been giving us lots of sustainable tips, and he's going to be talking to the club about sustainability as well, because Harry Benham, he knows exactly what we need as well, which is all good. But listen, just coming back to the Leicester game, Laney, look, they've got some great players. Obviously Maddison, who always scores against us. Is he going to be a Trossard, do you think? And do you think he's going to score against us once again?
Oh, I can't stand the bloke. He probably is. Hopefully we've scored enough so it doesn't really matter. He's going to score. He's going to stand in front of the West Stand. He's going to give it a big one. He's going to get loads of abuse, and he will be water off a duck's back, and he will still score. So he's quality, but he's an annoying bastard, isn't he?
Is he in the England squad?
I don't know. Don't care.
Okay. We're fine. Listen, Thorpe might tell us a little bit later, but like I said to you, they've got Maddison, they've got Barnes, like I said to you, they've got Daka, who's a player that they, I think they got just from Zambian, who came in just before the European tour that they had last time and started to score a few goals, and he's right in there now. He's with his 4 goals this season as well. Tielemans, who I think is a great player as well, but I mean, some of these people are saying that some of these players they almost feel like they don't want to play for Leicester at the moment now, which is what we want on Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah, we want just harmony, and we want them to be at their worst. Yeah, I've got a good vibe. It seems to be, it's a positive. We got back to winning ways. Ivan's in the England squad. There's lots to celebrate, lots to get down the ground early for. Have a few beers, get behind the bees.
Score prediction, Laney.
2-1 Brentford.
And I'm going to go 2-0 Brentford, because it's still not come in for me. So hopefully, between now and the end of the season, I'll get one of these scores right, actually. But like I said to you, this is Besotted Pride of West London podcast. We are in a pub somewhere in Surrey somewhere. Lovely pub, a nice bit of food, a nice bit of drink, a nice bit of chit-chat as well. We'll be in the Globe and the pub on Saturday as well, having more food and more drinks and more chit-chats as we do. But like I said, don't forget to subscribe on all good podcast channels, and also don't forget to write us a review.
Buy us a beer.
Buy us us a beer.
Yeah, buy us a beer.
besotted.com/beer. We've got Besotted Global as well, which is going on. We don't have the man of the match for this game because it's a little bit early because they're still voting on man of the match at the moment now. But the Tasmanian Bee has to get up from Tasmania to actually get his supercomputer out to actually calculate those results. But we'll have those in time for the next podcast. But like I said to you, a great result for the Bees, great result for Saturday, great atmosphere, great vibe. We're on the way back. We've got Leicester on Saturday. What did we say?
Come on, you Bees.
You Bees. Let's make those foxes foxed.